5 Paper 2 exam. And what we're asked to do is to find the range of f. Now f here is a function of t, and it's given by 2 times e to the minus t. Now if you have trouble visualizing that, we can rewrite it as equal to 2 divided by e to the t, because we all remember that the minus sign in the power we can just drop down underneath. And so when we think about range, we can't think about it unless we think first about domain. And the domain of this one is given by this little bit of information here, but 0 inclusive up to infinity. So I'll just write that here just so we've got that in our minds. Domain equals 0 to infinity. So what we need to do is look at what our function is doing on this domain to work out our range. And just as a definition, the range is all the possible values that y or f of t could go through. So because e of t is what they call monotonic increasing, that means that it only ever goes up. It doesn't kind of jump around or have any turning points or anything like that. So all we need to look at is the function at the endpoints of the domain, because we know that between the endpoints, the function isn't going to do anything fancy. It's just going to go increasingly upwards. Now, it's important to note, because it's the denominator here, as e of t goes up, it actually makes the whole function value go down, because we're dividing by a number that's increasing. So if t is at positive infinity, we're taking e to that, which is very, very large, and we're dividing by that number. So f of t is very small. So we can just have a think about this and start to frame the question. As t tends to infinity, we know that e of t is going to get very, very large, and so therefore f of t is going to get very, very small. And so this gives us a bound on our range. So we'll come back to that, and let's look at as t tends to 0, because that's in our domain. We know that e of t is going to tend to 1, because anything to the power of 0 is 1, and therefore f of t is going to tend to 2. And so now we're starting to get a sense of the problem. And so when we think about the range, we can just input the endpoints of our domain and go from there. So the first endpoint is at 0, and that's inclusive. So as we just get that from here, 2 divided by e to the 0, which is just 2 divided by 1, which is 2. And then the other endpoint is not inclusive. And so therefore our range is simply equal to 0 to 2. So we include the 2 with the square bracket because the point 0 is actually in our domain, but we don't include the point 0 because the point infinity is actually outside of our domain. You can never actually get there. And so that's the answer for question 1.